Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the ThePCelitist. My name is Woodsie.
My name is Shepherd.
And today we have a subject brought to you by Sheppy. Everyone knows to call him that.
Yes.
A term of endearment.
Only if you've been previously selected to call me that, though.
Only subscribers are allowed to call him Sheppy.
True. Anyway, today's topic involves predictability versus randomness, particularly in the AI. So as an example, stealth action games, you have to sneak up on a guard. Does he have a predictable, circuitous walking patrol route, or does he have a completely random patrol route? So that's what I mean when I'm talking about predictability versus randomness. And I'm sure there are several games we could each point out about games that have one of the other, some that have both. But my way of going about this is this a discussion just about predictable versus random? I think it also heavily involves skill versus luck. So, for example, if a game is predictable, guard patrol routes are predictable, for example, events, timings, things like that, like a WoW raid, you get to a certain boss health percentage is predictable. Does it then become entirely about skill? Because it's an all things being equal kind of event. A great player and a novice player will experience the same predictable event and set of events throughout a fight. So it becomes entirely about skill, who is best at mastering the way to achieve whatever the task is during that event. But if skill becomes everything, the downside of that is the entire game, in all these little subsets of predictable events, the entire game becomes about learning the one, maybe two, if you're lucky, three ways to win. The one, two, or three, it's usually one, best way is the only way, like a Hitman game. You have like two or three ways to kill the target, but it's really only one or two ways that you have to do. It's very linear. Once you learn that method, you can't really the replayability goes down, because not only is the game then predictable, but the solution is known and predictable. And it's really just a matter of trial and error and figuring out how to do that. And to me, that's not very fun. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a random set of events has good and bad. The good is that something random happens, you have to figure out how to solve the problem. However, something random and awful could happen. Like a truly random event, you're walking through the game world in Guild Wars 2, an NPC that's 20 levels higher than you randomly comes out of nowhere and kills you. Or, a boss, like, there's a random spawn just as you're fighting another mob.
Right.
So randomness in its wildest form can also be bad, because then it's completely arbitrary, and the best or the worst players can just be victims of pure chance.
Right.
So
you mean like dying from bad luck in Battlefield 3?
Exactly. Exactly. So I feel like there are good and bad to both. And so I guess I'll start out with that and get your thoughts on that. I have one more thing I want to bring up, but just starting off with that. Random versus predictable, skill versus luck. Is it really a continuum? Is that something you're seeing? What are your thoughts on what I've been saying?
I think it is a continuum. That's why I think there was a lot of discussion back when Half-Life first came out, because they had a lot of scripted events. So you had a lot of discussion of like sandbox type game where it's just all AI running off of their AI, or scripted events, and what each one brings to the table. I don't know if that's exactly the perspective at this moment, but I feel like there's a medium that works the best. If everything's predictable, I feel I pick up myself when I play games. I feel I pick up on the AI fairly quickly, like what it will do, what it will do, where it could shoot, the kind of barriers they could hide behind, and mm-hmm. where I can exploit the AI. Mm-hmm. When I feel like I'm just exploiting AI, I stop having fun. I want to feel like it's a living, breathing thing over there. If it's just completely random, usually when we're just bench racing, like game stuff, mm-hmm. we always come up with scenarios where, like, wouldn't it be crazy if just this happened? We're just running around in World of Warcraft and a dragon came out.
Yeah, before Cataclysm, we said, wouldn't it be funny if this huge dragon came and killed everything?
Right.
And that random thing eventually became somewhat predictable.
That's true. It did. But in practice, it's kind of annoying. When we think about it, if this thing happened, what if just a rock fell on people? Mm. Like just rock slide. It's always fun to think about, but put into practice, it usually just annoys players.
Exactly, and that's we're talking about, as I said before, the wildest form of random, where Not just, oh, that was fucking random what just happened. No, we mean like you fight a mob and you fought 6,000 of them already. It's not, okay, I know he attacks this way first, second, third time, and this is his timing for that. But here's my example of a random game. And I'll go back to stealth action because I think it provides the most direct example of what I'm talking about. So not just, and I mentioned this in a prior video, I believe, but I'll hit on it again. Not just the guard patrols randomly. Like, assume this is a living, breathing human. Obviously, he's scripted because this is a video game after all. But he has to patrol a certain area and cover a certain building or the grounds of a certain building. He'll do it in something of a consistent way because in order to get through his job, he has to do that. But it's not just he randomly patrols, but you come across one guard. You don't know if he hears a noise and he's going to go, huh? And then wait for 30 seconds and then continue his route. Or if he's going to be the type of guy who hears a noise and just starts shooting wildly into the darkness.
Right.
To me, and I know I mentioned this in a prior video, but I will again because I have the microphones. To me, that element of randomness would be fantastic because, and this kind of leads into what I was going to say, I think that random AI or random events can be successfully accomplished when the skill in overcoming them lies in not so much figuring out the one or two best ways or only ways to solve the problem, but it lies in the game providing enough of a foundation early on to prepare you with all the tools you might need so that you can use whatever tools you want. Not just only these 3 tools will work in the situation, but you have all this skill set. A random thing happens, your skill determines how you'll be able to overcome whatever it is you're facing. Right. If your skill is stealth, if your skill is brute force, whatever it may be, you have to adapt. And to me, like we've talked about difficulty in the past in our game difficulty discussion, I want some games to at least at minimum have a difficulty level that is so hard that only the most elite players will be able to beat it. I want events to be random such that it's not I've died 3 times doing this. All I need to do is learn how to do it and I want it to be, this is going to be a random event. I need to be good enough to defeat it. Not I need to learn the 1 or 2 things I need to do to defeat it. So that's how I think players need to be given the opportunity to fully explore what can and can't be done. Right. I think that trial and error to me is much more valuable than or what's even worse, how to do it, but I just didn't happen to hit that button at the right time. Right. Like a quick time event, for example.
Yeah. I think randomness is good with an AI, with some sort of scripting. It all comes down to how the developers design the AI. And while you were talking, I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if you basically gave AIs personality types, like the same way in Madden, like they get fatigued, or certain types of guards. Certain guards want to patrol one way, and certain guards, like some like to go in like a certain pattern. One guy likes to hang around the water cooler a lot, like that they have like a personality, almost like they're a bunch of little Sims running around.
Exactly, and I think the technology of games is progressing to a point where we can have that. It may certainly have been too much to ask in the past to have that. Right. You just couldn't code a game that in that sophisticated of a fashion, but I think we're headed in that direction. Right. The question is, truly are we? And if we are, who's going to be the first to really implement it? Right. I also, like, for example, like you're talking about, different personality types. Like, there's one guard who's patrolling. You keep throwing bottle caps. Eventually, he's going to get really pissed. And he's going to set fire to the entire facility. Right. Burn it down!
Because you could make a AI really intelligent, and you could script them to just be realistic. Because most games are, frankly, not realistic. And have you ever had, like, that older guy or the guy who doesn't really play video games who tries to get away with something in a game and the guard shoots? Hey, how do you hear me from over there? Because in reality, if you shot a gun down the hall, the entire base would hear you.
Exactly. There's no way he saw me. You love that there's that absolute drop-off of sight range for enemy AI, where at 25 feet, he'll pull up his gun and he'll shoot you in the face. At 26 feet, he cannot see you.
Right. Which, if anyone's played, like, Delta mode on Crysis, knows that these guys can see you from across the island.
And with their Korean eyes... I won't go there. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that.
But, I mean, we expect some non-realism in our AI.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be fun.
In reality, if you infiltrated a base and someone ran across the dead body, the whole place would be lit up. The
Exactly.
guys, the search for you would never end.
Or if one camera was suspiciously knocked out, there would be a major search.
Yeah, so I think it's the mixture, it's the balance. Because if AI is too predictable, unless that's part of the game, some games like to be about pattern recognition. Some like to be about, which is usually, it falls more of like a puzzle game.
Yeah.
Like Hitman is more of a puzzle adventure game in a action game package.
It tries to be.
Yeah.
It ends up being barely. I'm talking about everything Blood Money and prior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then there's games that are like more action oriented, so the AI doesn't need to be as intelligent. It doesn't need to be because it needs to be aggressive.
Yeah.
It just has to come after you.
Yeah.
You know, like zombies.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think you make a good point about the balance, because we do want realism in our AI, but it's hard to achieve, and like we've always mentioned, you're never going to please everyone. So really what I wanted to get out of this discussion is kind of open up to you and open it up to everyone else about what do you think about this balance? What are some games you've known that either have done it horribly to one side or the other, or some that have really struck a balance quite well? Because it's not just, for example, random events. Like, you can't just say, oh, our guards have random patrol routes. It's a random game. If once you're in the situation, the setup is random, but the reaction is predictable,
Right.
you've still failed. Because if every guard responds the exact same way, even if it's like a realistic response, like every guard as soon as he sees you calls for backup.
Right.
I'm not saying that predictability is bad, because that's realistic. It's just, it's striking that balance. So for me, I've played a few games, and since we've already kind of gone through the discussion, I won't kind of name them, but I'm interested to see what other people think, because we usually ask for feedback, and people will list games, most of which I've either never heard of or I've never played.
Right.
And I like that, because that tells me that we are speaking to a diverse community.
Yeah.
In terms of preference.
Indeed. I like that. So comment on this video, thumbs it up, subscribe.
And if you subscribe, remember, you'll get to call me Sheppy.
And if you have anything you want us to talk about, go ahead and always write to us. We don't promise to do everything.
Yeah. And if you have an expansion upon this topic and want to discuss it in length and it won't fit into the 500 character detail, feel free to send us messages. We're always happy to discuss it with you one-on-one.
Absolutely. My name is Woodsie.
My name is Shepherd. This is the ThePCelitist, signing out.